Well, good evening and welcome to this month's edition of The Edge. I'm thrilled to see you once again, whether you join us on Roku TV, Fire TV, YouTube. In fact, we don't care how you got here. We're just happy to see you and have you with us on Jess TV tonight. As you know, on the third Thursday, I'm talking to cool people doing interesting things across southern Alberta, having a real impact. And my guests share their stories about how to build your community, build your life, or build your business. And so tonight, it's the Two Mayors and a Reeve episode. I'm pleased to have Blaine Hyggen, Mayor of Lethbridge here, and Tory Campbell, the Reeve of Lethbridge County with us tonight. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a pleasure being here.
You don't get to use that very often, right? Seriously, there's so much to talk about. It's great to have two political leaders here, neighbors, and cooperative relationships are important. We're going to focus on that.
Didn't have to separate us.
Isn't that good? No fist fights yet, which is great. But Tory, maybe we can start with you. I know you've been a grain farmer here for the last 16 years or so, and you've got some pretty deep roots in southern Alberta. Can you talk a little bit about your background and kind of before politics? What's Tory all about?
The good old days, sure. I born here in Lethbridge. Grew up on a pedigreed seed farm just north of Coaldale. So went to school in Coaldale, graduated high school in Coaldale. But yeah, grew up on a small family farm. Followed Dad around like a shadow from a very early age. Loved farming at an early age, and so that was kind of how I got my start, I guess, in farming. And was fortunate. I was 15 years old. My grandpa, he was renting some land and kind of made a deal with me. You know, if you're going to work and get after this, kind of helped me out, get my start. So rented 3/4 of dry land when I was 15, and that was kind of the start. And
so before you even had a driver's license, you're the owner and proprietor of a small farm here.
So I'll tell you the story that I like to tell is I remember I had my first fertilizer bill. Had to go into Coaldale to pay my first fertilizer bill. So I had a checkbook. I had never written a check before, so my mom was kind enough to write the check. I signed it, and then my dad drove me into town to actually hand over the check, like in person. And like, this is, so yeah, that was the TSN turning point when everything went off the rails and became a farmer, I guess.
Yeah.
I did that. As I got older, it became really evident that our farm wasn't big enough to support another family, so I decided to go down a different route. Ended up coming to school here in Lethbridge, went to university, and my other kind of passion, I guess, was politics.
Okay.
So got my BA in political science here in Lethbridge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks. 15. I had no idea. That's a really cool story.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, you have, of course, deep roots in this region too, and you've owned a number of small businesses. So what was life like for you? What was your road before politics?
Oh gosh, I came down, I grew up in the East Kootenays, that huge metropolis of Sparwood.
Gigantic, yeah.
Gigantic, right? And if you weren't going to be a miner or something close to that, it was usually upon graduation you'd leave and go elsewhere. I had family down here. My aunt lived down here, and so I was, while I was going to school in Sparwood, I would come down during summer times and I would babysit kids there. And I got a great liking for Lethbridge, and so after that I had moved down to Lethbridge and started working at the Lethbridge Lodge.
Oh, okay.
So Lethbridge Lodge and McDonald's during the day and Lethbridge Lodge at night. I kind of had the two different jobs, and I'd always had a mind for business. I wanted to be in business, and I was going to the college taking business law and accounting, and I wanted to get out and get into business. And I sometimes I shake my head and go, what did you do? There's so many other things that you could have done. However, I got into my first little business. It was a graphic design desktop publishing business.
Okay.
And that was back in, I guess it would be 1990. And so started that business, and later got this idea that I wanted to get into the limousine business. So started a limousine company here in town, Executive 4-Star Limousine, which was sold out later and now has been acquired by is it California Dream Limousine. And so that, as well as I had a couple print shops, and which one I still own. I say I don't operate it because I'm rarely ever there, but
you have this other full-time job.
I had this other job, yeah. And in addition to that, we had opened a spa, and my wife was a hairdresser at the time, and going back quite a few years, and now changed to nursing, and she's a nurse at the hospital here, and so we sold that. And so always had an eye for business, and that's, kind of got me into Lethbridge and liked Lethbridge. It's a beautiful community. As some people will say, a large Raymond or a small Calgary. It's truly that way, and I like the tight-knit feel. It's almost like you know everybody. And so, yeah, it's something I really enjoyed doing business here in Lethbridge.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Now, both of you gentlemen had lives before taking on public service. I'm curious, I mean, obviously the political science degree sort of helped you in that direction, but how does one go from being a farmer, being a small business operator, to deciding to stick your hand up and go, ooh, I'd love to be abused for little pay? What got you both into the political side? Yeah, whoever.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess, so like I said, went to university, and as I was graduating, graduating university, was 23 at the time, and didn't really know what I wanted to do. Kind of was leaning towards working in municipal government, actually. Thought about a municipal internship and maybe going down that path. But as it happened, had an opportunity to rent some land. Didn't have anything to farm the land with, so my now wife, Carly, and I kind of went out on a limb, and we said, let's try this thing. So had a terrific landlord give us an opportunity, so we scraped together some money, begged, borrowed, got a few loans, bought a tractor, a drill, and decided to go farming, kind of on our own, start from scratch. So we did that, and that year we had our son, Dylan, was born that year, and then so as we kind of got more established in farming and feeling a little more confident over the years, obviously ups and downs, but kind of fast.
Farming ups and downs,
right?
really?
Dryland farming in Southern Alberta.
Shocker.
No, fast forward a little bit. So then when we had our second child, and then our daughter Andy, and then when Dylan started playing hockey, started coaching hockey and got involved with the board. And that'd have been the first experience on a board, anything like that for me. And I think it really opened my eyes. I think it was like, this is not so bad. This is kind of cool. I like this. And so that, like I said, I think that was maybe a point when I thought maybe there might be something out there for me. And then fast forward towards 2017 and did a little digging and there's a municipal election coming along, and didn't know a whole bunch of what actually took place at the county at the municipal level, but again, started doing a little research, and so reached out to the county, got some information, I was a 3-ring binder, I believe, of the nomination package and everything that go.
Right.
Here's what to know before you go, kind of thing, right? And so asked a few neighbors, like, am I stupid? What do you think of this? Like, the answer was resounding.
And what was
yes.
the answer?
It was a resounding yes. No. But yeah, and they says, that'd be so cool because especially in the rural side of things, tends to be older people, retired people. So I think I offered something a little different maybe than the usual, and so yeah, I had all the support of my wife and my kids, and so I decided to give it a go, put my name out there, and was fortunate to win in 2017 for my first term.
Awesome. And then this is your first term as Reeve?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, did that first term as councillor, and then in 21 at the first org meeting was fortunate to be appointed Reeve.
That's great.
Yeah.
And yourself, what made you decide politics was the place to go?
My gosh, governance, I've always liked governance. I was, the class president in school or on school council and things like that. But when I came down into business, I was always asked by people, because I would go through the struggles of the red tape, we'll say, through City Hall as I'm trying to get a sign. For example, I had 3 different businesses in the downtown area, and I wanted a sign, and it would overhang the sidewalk a little bit. So the trials and that I'd go through trying to get this passed, I thought there's got to be an easier way. So not a one-trick pony as far as I'm going in there because I can't get my sign.
That's good. You should have bigger motives.
Bigger motives than that. But through that process, people would just come in and say and ask. He says, "Well, have you ever thought about politics?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not. This is crazy. I like doing what I'm doing." And at times, literally in business, as many listeners would probably understand, and as I'm sure you both understand as well, there was times that I was literally collecting bottles to pay for a lease on a building that I had a business in. So times are never easy, as I know Tory had said. What was I thinking? Sometimes you get into this, but so there's always those struggles, but there's always something where I thought, you know what, you bust your butt and you'll make it through. You might put hamburger on the table rather than steaks. And my wife would take 3 days off after each child to recover, we'll say. And then that child we had these little carriers, and so our businesses were right next door. So I'd take my child over to nurse, and then I'd come back, it'd be on me, and then you'd be in the little walkers. I'd walk around the print shop and stuff here downtown. And so it was just something that was always, I thought, maybe there's something else out there. And so decided, and I had a little bit of different path, because I actually ran in 2007 and was not elected. So out of, I think it was ninth out of the pot there, or 10th, and then was not elected, ran a second time, and guess what? Wasn't elected again in a second term. Okay, I'm done. My dad was always, if first you don't succeed, try and try again. So I thought there's one more time. And that third time that I ran, I was successful and was happy to be in. Your eyes are opened, as I'm sure you know, in a role of politics, as well as Tory here, that it's different than what you think.
There's a lot more behind the scenes, isn't
absolutely there is. And so you learn stuff, but there's positive stuff, and I hope we get to chat a little bit about the positive side of things. There's the negative things that that you go through, but it's rewarding. It is really rewarding to know that you try to do your best to serve the community, and of course 50% of the people are going to enjoy it, and maybe not 50, and 50 may like it, or those numbers may be a little different, but it's rewarding. And I've just, and hence the reason why 2 times for council, and then I ran for mayor this last time, because the reward that it does bring serving.
Okay, well, that's a great segue. I mean, what do you personally find most rewarding then? What keeps you going through those crazy meetings and some of the social media attacks? Well, what is it that you find rewarding about this role?
Do you know, it's a stroll through, which my wife doesn't go to Costco or to shopping at all with me anymore, because to get a jug of milk, because I'm sure everyone knows it takes you an hour and a half. But to have someone come up to you and say, thanks for what you're doing. I truly appreciate it. That doesn't come very often. We know that. This is something in politics that, you got to have pretty broad shoulders, we'll say, and you take some of the abuse that you do. However, there's people that do appreciate it, and most of those people aren't the ones that'll tell you, but when they do, it gives you that little fill in that gas tank to keep going, because you know that you're doing something right. And so I think that's rewarding to me, is just the small little thank you. And I mean, that might sound really minuscule, but it's not.
When it's genuine and when it's heartfelt, it's like, oh, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And Tory, what keeps you going? Like, what's the motivational, the rewarding part of the job?
I think Blaine, I think you hit on it, obviously, right? It is that it happens, maybe a little more infrequently than you would like, but it does happen, right? Like, I think there are truly a lot of people that appreciate people who are willing to put their name out there, because it is, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're exposing your family, when there's been times over the last 7 years where it's like, Carly, can you get the mail? Like, I don't really want to go to the post office too badly.
I just can't face anyone
the
today.
post office, the bank, the rink, it's, and it becomes, it does become the lead, right? Like, it's not how's the crops, how's the kids, how's the wife. It's how's the roads, how's this, how's that. So it is, it is a juggling act for sure. I think from a positive though, I just think that it's been so interesting for me, because coming in again, like being I used to say I was the young guy, and now I just feel old. But you
politics does that too,
and it's for the most part, I think we were talking about. So I came on with 2 other new councillors, but the rest of the council had been there for, north of 12, 15, 20 years kind of thing.
Right.
And so it was an interesting dynamic at the beginning, especially when I was, getting my feet wet, and I said some things that I shouldn't have said, pushed a little harder than I should have sometimes, and probably wasn't the most respectful to everyone that was there, because I think I just thought I knew better. But over time you learn, right? Like, and I think that's what's been rewarding for me, is to see how it's evolved to a point where now, I feel like I have the respect of my colleagues. I feel like that we've really grown as a team. We've had some change, obviously, in the last election, but I do feel as a cohesive unit, we respect each other. And I think that's probably one of my takeaways that I'm the most proud of, is I think we are a cohesive unit. I think we, at the end of the day, we're always trying to do what's best for Lethbridge County. We were able to put our egos aside And I think that excites me because we can get stuff done then. You know, it's not the background noise. So I think that's what, you know, I really like that. I think it'd be different if it was, you know, a little more tumultuous, if we didn't, you know, have that buy-in. So I do really appreciate that from our team.
And on the flip side then, is there something that you've, like, if there was one part of the job you could just eliminate, what would it be? Is there something that just drags you down?
Well, so as the Reeve, I am the official spokesperson of the county, and I hate seeing myself, I hate hearing myself, as we're here right here in front of this camera. You know, so I think that's been a big challenge for me is trying to overcome that. I don't think I shy away from public speaking necessarily, but I don't need to be the voice, but it comes with if you want to be in a leadership position, that does come with that. And then, yeah, I guess the negativity too. I just wish that we could find a way to maybe work a little more collaboratively within all of our communities, with even internally, right? Not just, you know, I know we're here to talk externally, but internally too, right? We tend to probably make things a lot more difficult than they need to be. A lot of negativity out there, and so I think it is, you know, it definitely takes its toll after a while. It's like you said, you know, like, go to Costco and it's like, I can't just go to Costco, you know. So, but and I know that's magnified for you, Blaine, but yeah, I guess that would be my thing, Trevor.
And how about for you? Similar?
You know, I think it's something that I really enjoy is social media. Something I really don't enjoy is social media.
Got it. It's the
And,
best
you know,
and worst.
And so I guess one of the comments when I first got on council, I was a councillor came to me and said, back in the day, my kids always love when I say back in the day. When is the date at? But it was always, you had a post office, people would go down, put their complaints, would show up there, they'd have to walk down, actually fill it out, and by the time they're done, they might not be as angry, or they may not be as happy if they're sending a kudos. Put that stamp on, walk down, put it in there, or call to the one number. Councillors didn't have their cell phones, didn't have this, and so
Get past
they
the
said it was,
switchboard.
They said it was different.
Multiple layers, right?
Absolutely. So they said it was different in that, you know, you'd come in there and in your council package you'd have, you know, okay, here's Madam such had this complaint, and Mr. Green had this complaint, etc. And so it was different then. But now, if there's anything that, you know, any comment that somebody wants to put out there, good, bad, or indifferent, it's simple. In 2 seconds, you're there, right? However, I do see the positive side of social media, of course, because it's getting a message out that is difficult to do otherwise. You don't have to be looking in maybe the Lethbridge Herald in the morning for everything before. It can be, you know, instantaneous. Is that good? I think it is. Is it bad? I think it is.
Right.
So it's, you know, that balance, and you have to be on, because that's the communication that the folks in the, you know, want to communicate. It's their avenue, really, to put communication out there. So of course I think it's good to have that. And but there's always been conversation. We just had a meeting with Mid-City mayors here, and that's and the conversation was, what do you do with social media? Do you allow commenting, etc.? And so you'll see some communities do, some people don't, just because of what that could cause.
What it unleashes.
Yeah, what it unleashes. But I think it's important. And social media is absolutely an incredible tool, but I know it can be challenging as well.
Okay, thanks. I mean, you know, so there's good, there's bad, there's ugly, and you've both obviously learned to live with it over multiple terms because you're both still here. We're, you know, a year plus away from another municipal election. For those people that are out there contemplating jumping into public service, contemplating running for a council, or even maybe school board or some other sort of public elected role, what advice would you have for people exploring the idea? What advice would you have for kind of people thinking about it and, you know, getting that first start now that you're both wily veterans of the process?
Do it. Like, literally do it.
Okay.
It's, you know, we need more folks that do want to run for public office. I think it's a wake up for many when they go, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. I'm sure all of us sitting here could say, oh, I didn't realize this happens behind the scenes. So I'd say do it. There's nothing more gratifying than public service. And honestly, it's if your family can support it. It's the number one thing I've always said, and each time that I've ran, I've asked my family, are you okay with this? Because my family is always my number one, and and they've said, you know what, if you want, we will support you. So if you have the support of family, friends, whatever that may look like, do it. It's absolutely amazing. I think so anyways.
Similar advice, or would you?
Well,
color
now
it at
you
all?
went positive there, Blaine. So how do I go negative now? No, yeah, no. Obviously, if it's something that you want to do, yeah, don't be afraid. Like I think it's easy to make excuses why not to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is the same. I hear so many people say, "Well, I remember I had one citizen that was pushing pretty hard on something, and we kind of went back and forth, and really I could tell that we weren't going to be able to build a bridge to where we both, aligned on this. And I said, well, why don't you run? Like, why don't you run? And he said, well, I never get elected. Nobody likes me. And I was like, maybe then let's reflect. There's a lot to this, right? I guess if I had to say something maybe a little more critical, it would be, I don't think we need more politicians. I think we need more people that are willing to be leaders.
Less government.
We need to be leaders, is what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Right.
If you want to come out and you want to, sit here and be loud and obnoxious and maybe this isn't the place for you then, because I think we need people that are considerate, that are thoughtful, that are engaged. I think we touched at the beginning on the one issue counselor, the one issue elected official. It's no. There's so much
right?
more to this.
Yeah.
If you come in and you're red hot over something, and then odds are you're going to pull back the curtain and you're going to be like, oh, it's not what you think it is, because like you said, there's so much else that goes into it. Mm-hmm. So I guess that would be my kind of takeaway from it is come here and be a leader. Be prepared, do the work, because there is work. I think that's the other thing too, is people just think we show up at places, go to meetings, look fancy, but it really is work in the sense that, if I want to be prepared. I want my team to be prepared. I want our council to be prepared. I want you to show up, know what you're talking about, and do a good job. So as much as I would say, yes, everybody should do this, I would put the brakes on it a bit and say, be really thoughtful about this, consider it. And again, if you don't have the support at home, it's going to be real tough.
Absolutely.
Because I think we all agree, like without that, we're nothing. Mm-hmm. So I would say that as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's interesting. I think people don't understand when you get a council package of multiple hundreds of pages of documents, particularly as the chair of those meetings, you're expected to know the contents top to bottom and have an opinion and an action plan. Not that you're supposed to just talk about it, because that's what your councils are for, but there's a real, you're supposed to have a deep understanding of many, many different subjects. And by the way, there's another 300-page package 2 weeks from now, right? Like it's this constant churn of content.
And then, oh, by the way, my first term on council, they definitely took advantage of the new guy, because I sat on 12 committees my first, I think the first 2 or 3 years, and then they took some pity on me and took a little off the plate. So it's, and again, like you want to do a good job. You want to show up. You want to, there's times obviously where you're maybe not as engaged as you would like, but I think you want to show up. You want to represent your municipality well. You want to represent your ratepayers well. So there is a lot to it, right?
And you want to go to everything.
Of course.
I mean, I do. I love to go and if you have an invitation, there's probably nothing harder for me in the role that I am. Say I've got 3 other things at that time. It's so tough because you
literally can't be in 4 places at the same time.
You can't be, and so hence we have acting and deputy and within the city, and so there's other councillors that take these roles. This is what council is all about. We're all as one. It's not mayor and council. It's council. And so I think so often it's not being at these things is so difficult for me, because I'm like, what am I missing? That a question that someone might have that I want to research and bring forward to council. What am I missing? And so thank goodness we've got an amazing council that brings this information back and shares it. And so I mean, our emails are half of just council going back and forth. Hey, I went to here. Yeah. Here's what I learned. Just to keep everybody updated on what's happening. So. Yeah, it's tough to not be at everything, but we know that you just can't.
No, that's great. So let's shift gears a little bit. I mean, I think it's important to spend a bit of time, which we have, on you as people, because I think sometimes also the public forgets that we are humans, and yes, we have a role and we're paid to do a role, but we have lives, we have families, we have feelings, and I think so that's important. I thank you for sharing. Let's talk a little bit more about the municipalities you represent. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you face? Like what's the stuff that keeps you up at night at this point? What are you most worried about as we kind of go into this next year?
Gosh, you want me to start?
This
one can go on and on and on.
This could be the rest of our time together, but what are some of the big sort of heavy hitting items that weigh on you and you're really sort of focused on?
I think, and they change on a regular basis, right? But some things that really have stuck as of late, if I were to say as of late, I would say the water issue. Potable water. It's something that has been a challenge, and it's great. We work very closely with the county and our other regional partners on different strategies, because there's only one water source, and it's
we're all in the basin together.
We're all in that basin together, and I've done trips out, and I look at St. Mary's or these different areas around. I'm going, my gosh, like you hear it, but when you actually see it, so water is something that is kept me up, and you know how you're going to deal with that, and this takes a much bigger lookout, if you will, to this. And when we talk about the provincial, how they play a part, and so I think it's that advocacy work that is done as well, but working together with your partners and stuff. It's the county, or if it's other communities around the area. It's important because we supply water to many other communities, and so it's something that it does keep me up. Okay. It truly does. Yeah.
Availability of water, getting more water. Shortage.
Tell someone they can't have a green lawn. I mean, that's tough. There's some people, they live for that, and I've got some neighbors. I swear they're manicuring with scissors out there and they have some incredible lawns. Mine has not been so good as of these last few years,
right.
But yeah. So that water shortage is a real thing, and we really need to realize that.
Okay, thanks. And Tory, for you, similar or same issue?
Yeah, and I think when I frame the water conversation, I think it's twofold for us the way I see it. Obviously you have the potable water and the challenges around that, challenges around obviously the source water itself and what the drought means for that. Obviously, the city's ability to process that water, their capacity as we grow as a region, as we grow in southern Alberta, like Blaine mentioned, they are the primary provider in the region. So obviously want to work closely with them, advocate as much as we can for the city and what they do for the region, what that means to everything that happens in southern Alberta. I think that's paramount. And then on the other side, we're very fortunate, again, in southern Alberta to thrive on agriculture. For us, we have hundreds of thousands of acres of irrigated land in our municipality, and that's very important. We drive over $3 billion a year towards provincial GDP.
The most agriculturally productive county in the whole province, right?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So obviously, just what that means, and you nailed it, Trevor, to the province. And obviously being a farmer as well, it definitely does keep you up at night. We're very fortunate, our municipality, to have two great irrigation districts that have been involved from day one on how are we going to manage this, what does this look like, what is the allocation, what does that mean, and then I have to tip my hat to our producers too, because I think it's not unlike us, every year they're being asked to do more with less. Yeah. And right. The water thing is that perfect example, where it's going to have to really come down to utilizing every drop that you can. So yeah, I would say water for sure, and then obviously for us, roads, over 2,000 kilometers of road, primarily gravel, obviously some hardtop as well, but our roads are living, breathing things. These gravel roads, they change every day with every vehicle that goes down it. There's something impacting it, whether it be hundreds of years of geology on what's beneath that and how that's right. changed, to what happens on top. As we become better farmers, better producers, we put more stress on that infrastructure. So it's always, we're always trying to get further ahead, but it's it's a moving yardstick. So definitely, I would say those are probably, if I had to say, top of mind for sure.
And infrastructure is key to getting goods to market and growing the economy, right? It's not just
absolutely.
Me going for a Sunday drive. The most important part is actually this is how products move.
Yeah, absolutely. Like again, our producers are getting so good at what they're doing, be it in a confined feeding operation, how they're able to get those animals where they need to be. as quickly as possible. A sugar beet grower growing over 40 ton an acre sugar beets, potatoes pushing north of 25 ton. It's amazing what they're able to do, but that product comes off the field, into storage, out to market, across all that infrastructure again. So it just compounds. So our ability to keep up with that is challenging, especially given the current tax regime in the province around frozen farmland assessment. That's obviously a challenge, one that we're trying again to work with some of our partners to really bring that to the forefront, have that discussion. But yeah, it's interesting for sure.
Yeah, it's fun times, right?
And that extra weight on the roads, especially in this time of year, then you've got to fix more. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of chatter in politics these days about this rural versus urban divide, right? And clearly municipal districts and counties have different needs, different priorities perhaps than larger urban areas. But what do you take from this? Is there a natural divide there, or is it a bridge we can build across the two? Do we have to be two solitudes? What's your perception of that kind of rural versus urban debate? I'm just curious to get both of your perspectives.
I don't know if I'd call it a debate. I think that the working relationship is extremely important. I mean, we've got a committee, a joint committee that we meet on a regular basis, and
that's council to council.
Council to council,
okay.
Yeah. And is that more what you mean? Yeah. And so I think it's chatting and reaching out to Tory the question and vice versa on how we can work collaboratively as a region. I really don't think there's that divide because, I mean, let's face it, as a community of Lethbridge, and there's if there's shopping that is done, we know that those customers, will say, that are coming from the county do shop within our community. As they're doing well, and as farming is doing well,
the city benefits.
And
right.
So I know that some people believe there's that divide, but I truly don't believe there is. We need to work together, and I believe we do, and on making sure that the region grows and it's positive. And if you put on your other hat, the economic development hat,
as a guy from the region,
yeah, and how important it is for regional development.
Right.
And I know that you bring this up quite often. If there's, for some reason, the city misses on an investment, we'll say, and it goes to the county, let's be excited. Let's be happy. These folks are still, some of them will live within the city,
right,
work outside, or shop within the community. So we need to be happy for everything that happens within our region, not just our city or not just the county, but within our region and other communities around.
Okay.
Yeah, well said, Blaine. I completely agree. I think, so we were a member of Rural Municipalities of Alberta, RMA, so we go up to Edmonton twice a year for our conventions, and there's 69 municipalities. And, to say there's an urban rural split across, southern Alberta, across the province, across the country, I'm sure we could go in a million different directions, but I see it within our own membership, right? There's diverse needs, diverse wants across the entire province,
even
right?
within rural municipalities.
Yeah, so I get a little, I get my back up a little bit when we just get framed as that, well, you guys are rural. We're so much more than that, right? Like we all are. We depend on each other. We rely on each other, and I think, yeah, as Blaine said, a perfect example is EDL. It's to have that vehicle where both of us, can lean in and see the value and say, we need to stop talking about wins and losses as it pertains to, if I get something you don't, or vice versa, right? Like we need to look at it as a win for the region, a win for the province, a win for the country, and let's start looking at things more like that. And I think we're an example of that down here. I really do. I think that, maybe something doesn't make sense. It takes up 30 acres of laydown space, and there's an opportunity, and maybe it's our municipality or a neighboring rural, and maybe if there's something that really fits nicely with you, then absolutely, let's have those discussions. Let's find a way to get it here, and I'm gonna kind of anger some people in the rest of the province, but let's be selfish down here in southern Alberta, and let's keep it here.
Yeah.
This music's my ears. I love it. You have my full support. Yeah. So I mean I don't want to get bogged down in the details because it's the journey is sort of public record, but I think the Agri-food hub and trade center is kind of an example of what you're both talking about. So I think about the county contributed, it was $1 million to that, $2 million to that project, which is an asset you don't own, and it's not even in your jurisdiction because you felt it was important. And as things came to light and there were some challenges around the Agri-food hub, Now there's a joint governance board that's comprised of administrations from both municipalities. So again, not getting too much into the weeds, but just in terms of the principle, can you both speak to how that maybe is an example of the two communities coming together for the right outcome and for the good of the broader region? Because I think it's a really important asset in Canada's premier food corridor.
Absolutely, it is, Trevor, and spot on. This is an integral part of that collaborative effort, working together, and you know, having our city manager and the county manager working together on this this board right now. This what do you call it? It's
The interim
governance board. This is the information to share. Again, it's just showing the region as working together. And I've heard discussions, and we've been briefed on it, on how well that is going. And I'm sure you probably have heard the same thing, Tory. And it's been really exciting to see this work moving forward. And it was a challenge, obviously, when this came forward. And it's not something that anybody wanted. And it's frustrating. It's going to be some challenging times for the next while. And they're going to come back in November with, you know, what does this look like going forward? We knew, and it wasn't unanimous, but many of our council, believed that this had to move forward. You had to invest in this in the Agri-food hub, and for many different reasons. And we could be here for 3 days talking about those. But I think the main thing is that, you know, you shutter something up. The building is there, and Councillor Croson said something that was really enlightening to me. It was that. You know, there's a school on the north side. I'm trying to remember the name of the school that was built far too big at the time, and now, oh my goodness, it's too small. Will we fit into that eventually? I believe we will, with the support and, you know, of the region.
We'll grow into it in a way.
This is the region, and of course, with an agri-food hub, agriculture is county and some of these other communities, and so working together, I've been really happy with the. You know, the briefs that we've got back on what is happening over there now and how this interim board has worked. And I'm sure, I don't know if there's anything to add to that, Tory, that you have.
Yeah, no, I concur, Blaine. Like I think that, you know, I want to acknowledge just the legacy that's there. You know, like there's over 125 years of history that goes back to the dry farming Congress of, was it 1912 or 1917 or something like that, and you know, like it. So it is, and you know, Belinda gave a lovely little spiel for us before our. Well, you were there too. Before the Ag Service Board conference that was in town, and just how the connection to agriculture, the connection to the city, the connection to the region. So yeah, I obviously want to acknowledge, you know, all the people that were there before. All the new people that are there, all the people that are there now. There's a tremendous team there at the building proper, at Lethbridge Exhibition proper, and I think that I think it is exciting what's happening right now. We have a tremendous CAO in Cole back at the county, so to have Cole there working side by side with Lloyd as co-chairs, our director of corporate services Jennifer Place is a tremendous financial mind, so to have her there as our two county representatives, I don't think we could have asked for two better people to be representing the county. So that's exciting for us, and I think you hit it right off the top, Trevor, around that. My vision when the ask came for us to contribute financially, it was important for us to make that type of a contribution because I think it was important to show the people across the street, the people at the city, that we were serious. That I think for a long time, it's easy to be the rural and say, well, we're just rural and we're just small potatoes, but I think it's important that we show that we want to be invested in the region, we want to be invested in the city. So for us to make that was the largest investment that we've made that isn't in our municipality proper ever, right? So I hope that it showed our belief in that facility, our belief in what that facility can be. And I'm confident that it will be. It's going to drive so much for this region. It's going to be that engine, that catalyst that I think that we can showcase agriculture. And to me, that's, as a producer, as someone that's as passionate about agriculture as I am, it's exciting. So the journey. I'll be honest, that November, December period for me, that was probably some of the darkest times I've had you know,
Oh, yeah.
in a leadership role, you know, being involved with that board and navigating that was, it was hard. You know, it was really hard. But I'm hopeful that from that, you know, we're able to see, I think, what we in this room all think that it can be. So yeah, excited going forward, and I think it's a beautiful building, beautiful place. Like walking around at Ag Expo, I just you know, I had ear to ear grin the entire time.
Yeah,
right, as a kid, I remember, you know, he'd go there and you know, climb on every tractor, climb in every cab as a kid, and now I'm a, you know, 39-year-old man that does the same thing, but
nothing's changed.
you know, nothing's changed. But you
And
know,
the bigger
just,
equipment
right?
now too.
So it was yeah, it was so cool to see just everybody just so engaged, so happy. Been fortunate to be down there for quite a few events so far, and yeah, I think the team's knocking it out of the park, and just excited for what comes next.
Okay, awesome. Well, and we definitely invite the entire world to see all 268,000 square feet of the Agri-food Hub and Trade Center, because it is a world-class venue, and so we welcome everyone to Lethbridge for that. Now, I mean, building on that, water and wastewater is often seen in a rural setting as a key constraint for economic growth or population growth, and typically the large urbans hold the keys to the kingdom in terms of that. We know the region is challenged with water. We know the city's facilities are, you know,
At max.
additional government investment is required because we do need to grow capacity. So, you know, from a regional collaboration perspective, how could the two of you working together solve some of this water, wastewater? What does that potentially look like? And what's happening maybe already in that front? Because I know it's a key question out there, right? There's, everyone wants to know.
I think we are shifting the narrative, Trevor. I
Absolutely.
really do.
Yeah.
I do think that there's so many ways that we can be gatekeepers, and whether that's on development, on water, you know, so many things that through the municipal lens, and I really do think we are shifting the narrative, and I think, and I'm hopeful. I think the province sees that. You know,
They do.
I really do.
Absolutely
I think that this can no longer, you know, we can't build silos, and we can't stay in our silos. So I do think we are shifting the narrative, Blaine. Like I really do, that it's genuine in the sense that this is a regional asset. This is Southern Alberta. This is you know, this is important stuff. That if we're going to unlock the potential, you know, when we talk about some of these announcements that have you know, already happened, and the ones that are going to come down the line, you know, the world sees Southern Alberta as just this hotbed of potential. Whether it be agri-food processing, you know, so much other stuff too. And I always get hung on that, again, because I am a producer myself. But there's just so much. We're a blank slate in so many ways. So I will honestly say I do think we are, you know, turning the page, and this isn't an us and them thing. This is an us thing.
I mean, McCain Foods being the key example, right? It's physically in the county, but the water is supplied by the city. This $600 million investment is the largest in their corporation's history. That simply couldn't happen without both of your organizations at least talking to each other and finding a solution that works for that.
And we do. We have multiple organizations, including Coaldale and Picture Butte, many different areas that are working together and collaboratively, which is extremely important when we're trying to go for an investment of, I mean, the full build out is like $700 million. And we've heard that the province has about 800 for the province. And so when you're knocking on the door saying I'd like 700 million, the chance of you getting it are you know, pretty slim. However,
so that's the build out for the water and wastewater.
Yeah, about
you need about 700 million.
Yeah. So a little harsh. And you know what? It's not. It's something that I've commented on. It's great if we were to get that announcement, like, okay, you're getting $300 or $400 million towards this. It's exciting for us because we see this through a political lens. Now, it's as exciting as, and we'll say as sexy maybe as a pool or a rink or
Not
something.
so
Hey,
much.
we got water, wastewater, you know.
We're building a bigger
Building a
clarifier.
bigger clarifier. It doesn't sell that way, but I think as people see the importance of water and what the struggles that we're having as of late, and you know, with restrictions going into watering lawns, etc., the county and Coaldale, we were out there meeting with their county or with their council here a couple weeks ago, and they said, well, we need to have a similar message. We can't have someone we supply water to that maybe isn't, you know, their lawns are green and we need to have a strategic approach together so that we're all conserving that water, because there's one source, and like you say, we do supply to others, and we've got a great working relationship with the town of Coaldale. I was out there with Mayor Jack, and he says, you know, I don't think we can't find anywhere on record where we actually got together and chatted about things. And we were out there for dinner here a couple of weeks ago, and it's great to work and collaborate with all of the different players in the South, because water, again, and I know we sound like a broken record how important water is, but it really is right now.
It sort of is fundamental.
It's kind of fundamental, right? It's a tough renewable. So yeah, it's a challenge, but but I think we're working well, and I think that collaborative approach is important.
I think, and it, from some of the smaller grassroots things, like right now, I know that our administration, your administration, have worked really closely around that messaging, like you said, with Coaldale, just making sure that we're on the same page, acknowledging that it's the same water. Let's make sure that you're not doing something, we're not doing something. Let's align on our messaging around conservation, what that looks like. Make sure that we're sending the right message, a consistent message. And then, other ways to align. It's, around, how do we do hookups? How do we kind of, maybe come closer to aligning on rates? How do we have those discussions? Where again, I think we're just coming together as a region. And then on the advocacy front, I was very thankful and appreciative to be a part of Team Lethbridge. Last year when we made our trip to Edmonton, and one of our key messages was around that water, wastewater. So if we can advocate, if we can work together, that sing from the same hymn book, and I do think that we're doing a good job of that, and it's just finding ways where we can work more closely, be more aligned, and then I think I really do think the heavy lifting is slowly dissipating, and we're getting into some areas where it's easier. And I think the province sees that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because the county is a part of the Team Lethbridge mission, where you're sitting in a room with ministers advocating on behalf of the city. That's got to be a brain interrupt for ministers not used to perhaps seeing that kind of relationship and that dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's been lots of chatter about Bill 18 and some of the things that the province is doing, but if you had to wave your magic wand, is there something you would have the province do differently in terms of dealing with municipalities, or is there something in that relationship that you would want to see changed or better? I mean, the government being your primary funding partner and sort of, constitutionally our parent, as it were.
Well, the change, and we all know with this MSI and then MSI 2.0, and this is the Municipal Sustainability Initiative, going to LGFF and
local government fiscal
framework. So the funding that we get. So, do we believe it's too low? I mean, there's not a politician to say we're getting
I'd like
too
more
much,
money,
right?
please. Yes.
But that's something that we really need to focus on, because we need to think about what's happened in the past couple of years, and welcome to Alberta and the influx of millions that have. I think the number was just in last year was 500,000 people or something. Is that
last quarter was like 200,000?
Yeah,
it's big numbers.
So that have come into Alberta. The infrastructure, we talked about roadways and stuff in the county and within our communities. They're getting taxed, and I mean taxed as far as being used, and it's the funds to be able to fix that infrastructure with all of the new migrants, not just immigrants, but migrants from other areas. If it's from out east or from BC, we see a lot of plates. I know driving around and
right.
Folks that are moving here, and I get calls all the time as I'm moving here. It's the cost of living here compared to out to Vancouver is this, or in Toronto. So folks are coming in, but we need to replace that infrastructure, and so we need to advocate for additional funding from the province, and this LGFF, funding I would hope would be increased, because it's going to be tough to do without that nasty, now you got to increase taxes to be able to make your way through these infrastructure challenges that you have, and you can only imagine what those are as we talk about water being 700 million. If you blanket that across for tax increases, I wouldn't even want to say what that would look like, so you do need that. You need that for a region, and we'll continue. I'm up regularly in Edmonton and Calgary and trying to shake those government trees, but the dollars aren't falling as much as I would like.
Right.
However, we'll continue to do it. That's what our role is, right?
So we need a model. We need a different solution around.
We do need
support.
more dollars, and it's again, you can never have enough, but definitely more for infrastructure is a big part of it for sure.
Okay. Tory, similar.
Yeah. I think you nailed it on the head. Infrastructure, right? Like that. The pot isn't big enough. To be quite frank, they need to make that pot bigger. And I think, yeah, we talk right now, housing is very hot button right now, obviously, and as it should be. It's a housing crisis. But it's everything else that goes with that. It's all the infrastructure, right?
You can't build homes without water and sewer.
And it's hospital
right?
and schools, and
All
it just
that.
builds out from there. If I had to say, it's easy to be a politician and say, money, infrastructure, and things like that. I just wish that we maybe got listened to a little more. Like, we're so fortunate to be at the maybe the lowest level of government is not the best way to say it, but we're closest to the people, right?
Frontline grassroots.
We're the ones that you see at the post office, you see at the bank, you see at your kid's hockey game, at the band concert, and so we're getting that feedback on a daily basis, intimately with our ratepayers,
Right.
who are in turn the same ratepayers that are Alberta citizens, that are Canadian citizens.
And not always municipal questions, right?
No,
like,
right?
I mean, you'll get questions that are federal because you are that first point of contact. I'm in a confectionery, a little store, and of course, what are they asking? It could be something that's federal if it's.
But you're the person that they can actually interface with.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I guess I would ask that if I had to your question, that the magic wand, it would just be to listen. I think we have so much insight from what we do, because really what we're doing is just a smaller I'm doing a smaller microcosm of what you're doing, and what you're doing is a smaller microcosm of what Jody Gondek is doing is a smaller microcosm of what Danielle Smith is doing. So
Right.
so let's cut some of the hypocrisy out, and let's just listen to each other, because I think if Trevor comes up with a solution, him and his team come up with a great solution in Stirling, why can't we build that out and look at that on a grander scale, on a provincial or federal scale,
Right.
or what Blaine does in Lethbridge? Let's look at that. Let's listen to us, and maybe instead of thumbing your nose to us sometimes, just listen and have that conversation, because I think there's so much, again, and we have 69 member municipalities in RMA. If you took our membership, your membership, holy cow, there is a wealth, generations of knowledge there in trying to make this thing work at the municipal level. So leverage us, use us.
Strength in numbers.
Right? Yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you. I mean, it's hard to believe our hour is almost up. So I'm kind of curious from both of you. This show is usually about leadership lessons. I'm always asking people, what advice would you give around building a business, building a community? But for you as the chief elected official for your municipality, what's been your biggest aha moment or your biggest takeaway from the experience? And what sort of lesson would you leave with our audience?
I think to start as municipal government, provincial or federal, it all works the same way. It's a time that it takes to get stuff done. You almost could have had that little blank, right? That beep. The time that
I had a hand on the buzzer, but we're good.
And just so quickly to say that I was elected, and 2 weeks after I was elected, I was on just a small little tidbit story here, on a municipal planning commission when we had that. And on the agenda was these big signs that are LED boards that are on Mayor McGrath and other areas of the community. And there was some concern, how are we going to keep them as moving? Are they going to do this? How bright, are the nits for night? And so it was on the list, and I came in being a new politician. I says, okay, is this the only thing on the agenda today? And they laughed at me. What do you mean? Well, we had about 55 more meetings over the next 3 years.
Something you thought would be resolved that afternoon.
And honestly, what was resolved, I'll be honest, Trevor, was what we kind of talked about at the first meeting. So time, and so when I think about that is being elected, I guess the aha moment is it takes time to be able to realize some of the results of the work that a council has done. So you may try to implement something, and it may not come to a following term if you're successful and if you run. So I think that aha moment is, gosh, I may not see that, because you never know. I mean, our terms can be quite limited to 4 years now, as 3 years previously. But it's that aha moment to me is, my gosh, I want to see this. I want to see the results of some of the hard work that not just council's done, admin and the community has done. Like we say, well, council did this. Council didn't do that. The community has come in and really supported something, and so you've ran with that, and you've championed that, and you've maybe ran that up the flagpole to the province or the federal government. And so, yeah, the aha moment is when those are realized, to me, and just some of the results of some of the work that's done. I think that makes you kind of sit back and go, gosh, he says, we finally something come through after all of that time that it takes.
Yeah, you almost have to be prepared to do good work, but maybe not see the results. Like, you
Not
just
see
sort of
the
have to
results.
accept that you may not see the tangible outcomes of all
Previous
the work
council
you're
might do a
doing.
budget that you actually have to run with. So people say, well, why are you doing that? Well, a previous council approved that. We've got a little bit of a change now. We're trying to put those in a councillor's term so that at least some of the stuff that your initiatives or your strat plan may focus on items that you can now put into your budget, not work on a previous council's budget. That's been different, until here this next year that we're going to be doing that. And so it's different for sure. And so those aha moments don't come as quick as you want sometimes. You may be off council and go, aha.
That was mine.
That worked.
Yeah,
It was great.
Awesome. Tori, for you, biggest takeaway or biggest aha?
I think I'd go back to my last answer, Trevor. I think it's that listening piece. I think that the thing that I've learned, that's been the most crystal clear to me is that if I go into a room and I try to be the loudest person and I try to talk the most, I'm the dumbest person in the room. I found that listening has been my thing. When I was first on council, I felt like I had to prove myself, and I have to put up my hand at every discussion needed my input. No, it doesn't. It needs me to listen, to reflect, because in every room that I'm in, there's someone smarter than me. So if I can take something from that, learn, and observe, I think that's been my aha, Trevor. It's just that ability just to kind of sit back a little bit more and not need to hear myself.
You have 2 years in one mouth. I know we were during one of our campaign. Someone had mentioned, you had 2 years in one mouth. Do more listening, and I think that's important. That's great.
Well, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedules and away from your family to join me tonight. I really appreciate you both being here.
It's a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us tonight as well. We'll see you next month on May the 16th for our next episode of The Edge, where I'll be joined by Adriana Mercada, who's the CEO of Flexahopper Plastics. So we'll talk about their journey in building their business and massive global exports that they ship right here from Lethbridge. So I'm excited to talk to her. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next month.